that brings us to verse 12. And God said, "This is the sign of the covenant which I make between me and you, and every living creature that is with you. For perpetual generations I set my rainbow in the cloud, and it shall be for the sign of the covenant between me and the earth. It shall be that when I bring a cloud over the earth, that the rainbow shall be seen in the cloud. And I will remember my covenant which is between me and you and every living creature of all flesh. The waters shall never again become a flood to destroy all flesh. The rainbow shall be in the cloud, and I will look on it to remember the everlasting covenant between God and every living creature of all flesh that is on the earth." And God said to Noah, "This is the sign of the covenant which I have established between me and all flesh that is on the earth." The very fact that this statement is given here tells us without any doubt at all that there were never rainbows before the flood. It does not mean that there wasn't rain before the flood, but that the sky, if there was rain, diffused light differently. In other words, and we've talked about this in 2 separate sermons, back in Genesis chapter 1, we read about the canopy which was over the earth. In Hebrew, it's known as a rakia. And when we were there, we noted that it was probably a solid canopy made of crystallized water that encircled the entire earth. And because it was there, the light coming into man's eyes would have been differently reflected, and no rainbow would have been produced. After the flood, when the canopy was gone, God knew that the result would be that there would be rainbows in this new blue sky of the post-flood era. Sorry, I'm getting all choked up here. And so he uses this new display of wonder and beauty as the sign of the covenant that was coming. If you think about it, you look at the Bible as it's portrayed in these different things happening, this is why God promised a covenant back in Genesis chapter 6. And then he said that he accepted the offering there in chapter 8, but now only is he confirming the covenant. If you can see how everything fits so beautifully and so perfectly, and it's so logically ordered when you read the Bible in its context. And now when we look into the sky and we see these terrifying storms that are out there, we are reminded of God's promise to us. And just like that, just like when these storms are coming out in the sky, like they are right now, we know that it is a localized event. It is not something that will ever destroy the world again. And the thicker the cloud, the darker the cloud, the more horrific the storm coming at you, the more brightly that bow is going to shine in the sky. And the great life lesson for us in the rainbow is that just when we have, just like that terrible storm that's coming towards us, we have our own troubles in our life, God's encouragement and his reliability abound in our life so much more. Just as the sun shines through the waters to produce the bow for our eyes, we are told to have the light of Christ shine through our souls to produce encouraged hope in our hearts. And the rumbling of the thunder, which directs our eyes to the rainbow, is like the call of the Holy Spirit to the dead soul who is looking for God and who is struggling to find him. Paul tells us the remedy for our dry condition right here in the New Testament. He says, "Awake, you who sleep, arise from the dead, and Christ will give you light." The light of the rainbow for the physical man is like the light of Christ for the spiritual man. We can trust him both as gracious gifts from our wonderful and glorious Creator. And we should thank him even now for the precious promises which proceed right from his word.